Which country is home to the biggest gamblers in the world? Is it America, with Las Vegas and Atlantic City? Is it Monaco, where the world-famous Monte Carlo casino is? Or how about the Netherlands, where the modern lottery was invented 6 centuries ago? The answer: none of them. The biggest gamblers are all the way over in Australia. With a population of 27 million people, just 8% of the United States, Australians lose a staggering amount, $31 billion, every single year to gambling. That averages out to over $1,000 per adult. It's like buying a brand new iPhone every year just to throw it away. Australia's gambling addiction is no accident. The country has a long history tied to gambling, from convicts and horse racing to cutting-edge addiction technology, and now the world's biggest crypto casino, Australia is still leading the way. And right now, a global gambling epidemic is taking hold. The industry is projected to hit $1 trillion by 2030, and experts are now looking to Australia as a case study. One journalist described Australia as the nightmare scenario of what happens when the industry starts to hit its full potential. So, how does a gambling industry first take hold in a country? Why are young people now most at risk? And is there any hope of stopping it? This is Moving Target. Today, we're setting our sights on Australia's gambling industry and how it kick-started the gambling revolution. Gambling in Australia goes back at least 200 years. In early colonial times, convicts carved animal bones from meals into small tokens, which were likely used as gambling chips. As convicts were slowly freed, given land, and the economy brought wealth, gambling became more organised. By the early 20th century, horse racing was the people's sport, and in Sydney, a revolution was kicking off. The world's very first automatic totalisator machine was invented in the city, a device that displayed bet totals at horse races, allowing thousands of bets to be taken in minutes. This meant gamblers could lose much more money, much quicker, and it made gambling easier for regular people. Casual gamblers, women, and young people were all able to join in. This early technology was a warning sign of what was to come. It paved the way for gambling to take a turn in the 1950s, when state governments were being pressured to install poker machines. The basic idea of the machines was simple. Pulling a lever would spin a collection of reels. If symbols lined up when they stopped, the machine would pay out cash. Australian social clubs, led by veterans and sports leagues, argued that installing these machines would give more competition to the pubs. At the time, the pub drinking culture was becoming a public issue, and clubs used this to win over the government. The first machines were installed in New South Wales, and the results were astonishing. The St George Leagues Club in Sydney built a sauna, dance floor, and installed new white marble floors. And that wasn't even the most lavish. At the South Sydney Junior Leagues Club, squash courts, a swimming pool, billiard tables, lounges, and a library were all bankrolled by more than 100 machines. State governments soon began to depend on poker machines too. Between 1956 and 1972, the state of New South Wales brought in the equivalent of 2.8 billion Australian dollars in tax revenue. Other states followed suit one by one to legalise poker machines. They simply couldn't afford to be left out. Gamblers were crossing state borders just to use machines, but that didn't mean they had public support. One early survey found that 60% of men and 70% of women were against them. However, up against a growing gambling lobby and cashed-up state governments, campaigns to ban them never gained momentum. After American gaming machine imports were banned in the 1950s, a company called Aristocrat Leisure sprang up to fill the gap. Its claim to fame was the multi-line multiplier. This worked by creating more possibilities of achieving patterns, giving users the illusion of winning much more often. Players might bet 50 cents on a spin, but they would win 35 cents back. The machine would light up and create excitement as though it were a real win. This near miss increased the desire for a user to play again, tricking the brain into thinking a win was coming soon. Aristocrat Leisure had discovered something neuroscience wouldn't learn until decades later. The highest releases of dopamine, which is the feel-good hormone, don't actually come from winning, but the anticipation of it. Plus, gambling lights up the same parts of the brain as those activated during drug use or sex, which explained why they were so popular. Aristocrat Leisure's creation hit the jackpot. Internationally, they were called Australia Machines and were rolled out in some of the world's biggest casinos. At home, Aristocrat Leisure helped construct a nationwide army of poker machines, driving Australians to gamble more, from just under 3 billion Australian dollars in 1972 up to 11.3 billion 25 years later. And as machines spread, casinos were approved all over the country. The gambling economy was becoming enormous. Today, there are over 190,000 electronic gaming machines in the country, and the majority of those are found in clubs, pubs, and hotels. Despite being only 0.5% of the world's population, Australia has 17% of the world's machines in non-gambling venues, and Australians put over $156 billion into these machines every year. That's more than the GDP of Bolivia and Uruguay combined. However, for a new generation, pokies might be slowly fading into the distance, and that doesn't mean that gambling rates are dropping. In fact, young people are becoming addicted at much higher rates. It's all thanks to dangerous new technologies, much more powerful than poker machines. Take a look at Stake. It's the biggest cryptocurrency casino in the world, and it was founded in Australia. Australian law technically bans all online casinos, so how does Stake get around it? By operating in a tiny Caribbean island called Curaçao. The real headquarters is 9,000 miles away in Melbourne, inside a company called EasyGo Solutions. Over the last 6 years, Stake has exploded. Its gross gaming revenue, which is the money left over after players' winnings are taken out, has grown from $67 million to over $3 billion. And it got there by tailoring their product to young people. The most popular age group for online casinos is 21 to 34, and 4 out of 5 young gamblers say they started well before the age of 21. Stake has gone after this group by sponsoring meme accounts on social media platforms like X, but also by partnering with football teams, Formula One teams, and the entire UFC. But arguably, Stake's most effective promotional tool has been through Kick, a less censored live streaming platform. It was created by EasyGo after Twitch banned gambling advertisements in 2022. In the space of 2 years, Stake and Kick spent around $200 million signing the world's biggest streamers and personalities. They would gamble live on stream, advertising the Stake platform to millions of viewers. Stake maintains that it is completely separate from Kick and that it will at some point become profitable through direct revenue. But there's no denying that Kick's gambling ads are beneficial to Stake. While Kick has struggled, Stake has made its founders into multi-billionaires. Stake is now confident that it has the highest betting volume out of any casino in the world, online or offline. And this might be true. Considering it makes $3 billion in gross gaming revenue, Stake falls between Indiana and Maryland. And that's comparing entire US states. This is all despite crypto gambling being blocked in many countries, including most parts of the United States. But users can still access them by using a VPN. One poll found that more than 25% of American adults gamble online every single day. They are lured in by celebrity endorsements, flashy applications, and bonuses fine-tuned to maximize user engagement. The device matters too. The blue-enriched lighting of smartphones has been shown to actually numb the emotional impact of a loss, turning smartphones into pocket casinos. And the group at the highest risk of addiction is young men. A quarter of young men between the ages of 18 and 30 gamble online, and 1 in 10 has a gambling problem. That's triple the rate of the general population. Young men are the perfect target for gambling companies. According to studies, men are already much more likely than women to take risks, and they tend to overestimate their ability to win. In Australia, young people are up against a powerful opponent. The gambling industry has taken root everywhere, not only in casinos, but also in media and politics, all the way up to the most powerful figures in the country. And the path to get there was through sport. In Australia, betting machines can be found inside pubs all over the country. TVs broadcast racing, rugby, and football almost non-stop. On television, over 1 million gambling ads are played in a single year. That's 2,739 a day, 114 an hour, or almost 2 every minute. It's no surprise that almost 3.5 million Australians report having a gambling problem. Big spenders are given extra special treatment, sometimes with a personal customer service manager. This can mean bonuses, special offers, and even tickets to events. So, who are the big brands behind the bets? The biggest Australian online sports gambling company is Sportsbet, with 1.2 million average monthly players. It shares the same owner as companies like Betfair, PokerStars, Paddy Power, and FanDuel. Sportsbet and other gambling companies are deeply entrenched in Australian sport. At a grassroots level, youth rugby clubs are largely funded by gambling companies. Professionally, 96% of the highest rugby league teams and 87% of Australian football teams have an official gambling partner, and the connections go all the way to the top. In 2022, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese promised to ban gambling ads on social media, but after just 95 minutes of private calls and closed-door meetings with media and sports leaders, the Prime Minister backed down and cancelled the ban. Australia shows that once gambling and sport unite, it takes hold of politics. And the United States is now learning it the hard way. Through most of the 20th century, sports betting was largely illegal in the United States, with Nevada being the exception. And from 1992, with the passing of the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, also known as PASPA, these laws were tightened even further. Then, between 2009 and 2012, two companies emerged to start pushing the boundaries: DraftKings and FanDuel. Set up as fantasy sports leagues, these were platforms to create a fictional sports team with real players. The goal was to predict their performances in individual games and create the strongest team. The competition was pay to enter, with prize money awarded to winners. This allowed them to technically be characterized as a skill-based game and evade the nationwide sports gambling ban. Some investors could see the potential from early on, with DraftKings raising over $75 million of funding in the space of a couple of years. Its prizes ballooned from $100,000 to a whopping $200 million. Behind the scenes, casinos and gambling packs were lobbying politicians aggressively. In 2013 alone, the industry handed out over $750,000 in political donations. 2 years later, that number had risen to $1.2 million. Then, in 2018, they hit the jackpot. The Supreme Court ruled that PASPA violated the 10th Amendment. Basically, the federal government was overstepping its authority. This gave the power back to states, opening the floodgates for state governments to legalize sports betting. Just like in Australia, the promise of gambling revenue was too lucrative to ignore. Companies like DraftKings were perfectly placed to capitalize. They quickly turned their business into a sports betting app. It slingshotted DraftKings to profitability, allowing them to go public in 2020 with a valuation of $3.3 billion. 3 years later, DraftKings was making more than that in revenue alone. About 93% of that came from their sportsbook and iGaming. Fantasy sports, which was now relegated to other revenue, had fallen to under 7% of the business. Betting companies were quick to sign sponsorship deals with sports teams, and today, every single NBA team has an official sports betting partner. DraftKings and FanDuel have become the two co-official betting partners of the league. It's impossible to watch sports without seeing gambling ads. Meanwhile, political contributions have quietly declined. The industry has won. Just like in Australia, American states have quickly become addicted to the gambling taxes. Betting is now mainstream. The new frontier is being led by prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi, allowing bets not only on sports but the length of a presidential speech, whether aliens exist, or even whether or not Jesus will return in 2026. And if reform doesn't happen soon, it's only a matter of time before the United States dethrones Australia as the world's biggest losers, potentially tipping the world into a full-blown gambling crisis. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far and enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. Looking for another target? Click here to learn about the shadowy world of Freeports and how it has destroyed history's greatest art.